Welcome to the Football Guys Dynasty Show. It's me, your favorite professional nerd, Jagger May, and then with me, as always, is our Dynasty captain, Jeff Bell. And we have Hutchinson Brown back with us, as always. And it is another Week 16 edition of Who Pooped the Bed and Who Did It, or Jeff's Scrap Bag. I don't like that. We're going to scratch that one. Fix that in post. Jeff, your first one on your list, Jahmyr Gibbs. It's happened, guys. I know how you guys really are. You don't celebrate. We all love Dave Montgomery, but you've been waiting for this moment for Jahmyr Gibbs your entire life. He has an entire backfield to himself. Lisan Al-Gaib can take over the Imperium. Does that mean is he sell, or are you just happy and giddy right now, Jeff?
Well, I mean, he's very in the news right now, so that I'm definitely not happy to see David Montgomery go down. It's been
for sure
feel good for David Montgomery. I think that what they are able to do with Thunder Lightning is fun in terms of football. I mean, Gibbs is stepping in at just the right time. You look at we're in the fantasy semifinals right now. You see what happened against Buffalo. Maybe it was just playing Josh Allen. Maybe it was just playing Buffalo. That defense for Detroit does not look nearly as good as it did a couple weeks ago. And they've lost Aiden Hutchinson a couple months ago. They've really had some atrophy in other parts. They're starting to look like maybe this is back into the Lions shootout game scripts. So you've got Jahmyr Gibbs coming in on your playoff semifinals. You've got potential shootout game scripts for Detroit. You've got nobody else to split the backfield with. And yeah, I mean, the running back overall all one in fantasy. Like I know Hutch, I see you got him running back one in your ranks. I mean, going forward for the rest of the season, I think he almost has to be running back one in the ranks.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jagger.
I think he might be mine already. I just haven't gone and checked it. I do that later. Fun fact, guys. Let's go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think he deserves to be RB1 rest of the season for sure. I mean, we're looking at like a prime Christian McCaffrey level workload where it's like the rushing work is his and he's going to get an elite level receiving work. People might not be in tune with this, but like Dave Montgomery was seeing a lot of receiving work from Jahmyr Gibbs. We're going to see a lot more receiving work potentially here. Dave Montgomery was almost split with Jahmyr Gibbs in terms of target share, in terms of opportunities in the receiving game. Like we're probably going to see like a range of like 5 to 6 targets for Jahmyr Gibbs a game. That's probably what we're going to see. That's going to be monstrous for his value. Then he's going to get probably at least, 16 to 20 carries a game. Like he's going to be the RB1 rest of the season for sure. And I like your point, Jeff. I was talking about it earlier this morning on Twitter that the Detroit Lions defense is also in a situation where they're giving them a lot of points. And I think there's going to be a lot more shootouts and a lot more reliance for the Lions on this passing game, because not only are they more limited in the running game now with losing Montgomery, but their defense is giving up so many points. They have to push the ball down the field, and that's going to lead to more Gibbs receiving involvement. So I'm really, really excited for Jahmyr Gibbs. And this injury too, like, I mean, we haven't seen the full details of this injury. We don't know exactly what it is, but the fact that we got what's that?
Torn MCL.
Oh shoot, I missed that. Torn MCL. Sorry. Yeah. This will probably bleed in next year too. Like we're probably going to see this bleed in next year. And that means Jahmyr Gibbs might open the season for the Lions as the clear-cut RB1, as the guy for this roster. And throughout the season, he might continue to get that kind of workload as Montgomery slowly but surely gets healthier.
Yeah, I mean, they like Craig Reynolds. Wouldn't be surprised next season if they bring in a depth guy. But Jahmyr Gibbs, he's gone from 50-50 to where I think it's going to be closer to like 65-35. And really, he's just stopping to get a breath every now and then. And it's no more. I mean, really, they just split drives.
65-35, I think, is undershooting it, to be honest. I think it's closer to 80-20, 90-10. Yeah. If anything. And I do think
especially the end of this season. I'm talking about more next season.
Yeah, with Montgomery easing back in. But yeah, you talk about, I mean, they do like Sion Vaki. They drafted him reasonably high. I think it was a 4th round pick there, and they called him running back immediately. But I think Craig Reynolds will be the guy to kind of step in as a complement this year at minimum. But I wanted to use Gibbs as an entry point into the Lions in general, because we've had so many questions this year about what is going on with Amon-Ra St. Brown. What is the deal with Sam Laporta? Et cetera, et cetera. We saw the performance this last Sunday from both of those players. It really is just the passing volume. The passing volume has just been too low for them to get counting stats to get up to the expectation that they carried into the year. That's it. Because the Lions haven't been in these shootouts, back and forth games. The defense has strangled people. They've been able to run the ball. They've been controlling games, controlling clock. And when you can't do that anymore, you have to lean on these guys. And so I think it's an interesting conversation, because what do you do with somebody like that in fantasy football. When you believe in the talent, you believe that your core down in the talent, this is an elite player. We know what he can do, but we're not seeing the usage for there, or the game scripts are not moving in the direction to be able to allow them to do that. It kind of sticks you a little bit where you're disappointed week to week from what you're getting for the fantasy total. But at the same time, what the ceiling is, what that potential is, and you can't exactly sell right off that potential, because who wants to buy? They're also seeing the disappointing points and they're trying to buy that disappointing points. So it kind of puts you in the middle.
Yeah. And that's where, yeah, that was a good segue because I was going to bring up Jared Goff.
Yeah, man.
This is a wonderful time of year where right now, where people are going to either make or lose money right now. And they're going to remember this forever. This is where Jared Goff, I feel like the price of the brick is going to be so high that I'm probably going to end up selling Jared Goff as soon as I'm done with him because of the points that he's going to be putting up during this stretch run. And everyone knows that I'm sure the Lions are going to have a decent playoff run and they're going to be reloading next year and they're going to be healthy and they're going to have this same hype that they have like the Bills, Ravens, like we have with they finally pushed themselves on this team. And with Jared Goff, this is a time where you might be able to get a Drake May plus cheaper, and some of these other quarterbacks that have a rushing floor. And again, Jared Goff is a great QB to have, and I'm not saying that he's not good, but because he doesn't have a rushing floor, we've seen it where he'll put up 5 points because they didn't need him that day. They gave it to Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, and those two got 4 touchdowns at the goal line, and that's just the way it goes. Or their defense does it for them. We've seen that this year as well. So that's just something to look out for. Before we move on to our next thing, Hutch, I wanted to bring this up, and I know it's a really important question, and everyone's wondering, why are you wearing a tux?
Yeah, I was talking with Jeff pre-show. This is my work outfit. I work at Hotel Bethlehem and a historic Hotel Bethlehem, and we wear tuxedos for every shift. So this is my work outfit. I got out of work at we're recording this at about 9 p.m. Eastern. I got out about 6:30 p.m. Eastern. And I got home and I didn't take it off. I had a couple things going on. I was preparing for this show. I had another show I was recording with Luke Sawhook, and I didn't take it off. So this is where we're at right now. It was pretty good. So I'm wearing a tux on the show.
I wouldn't have worn my new coat or my new jacket if I'd known that, because now we just look extra.
Yeah, we look very extra. And then Jeff in the middle of the sweater is perfect.
I bought this for a Christmas party. It came the day after, so. So it's like, well, I'll wear
I look like I didn't get the memo here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, look, Jeff in the middle here, man. It's perfect.
Well, Jeff knows I'm prone to extraness on just a whim, and then Hutch comes in with the tux. Reminds me of like Step Brothers. It's just,
yo.
Oh, I had to get that cat out of the bag because I know someone in the comments is like, why is this kid in a tux?
Why is this kid in a tux? Yeah, for sure. Oh man.
We actually haze Hutch to get on the show just to wear something fun. Next time it's a leotard, so look out for that. All right, well, on that note, we'll pay some bills.
Wow.
If you like content like this, if you want Hutch to be able to buy a new tux, hit that like and subscribe button. Head over to footballguys.com/plans. You'll want to do that, guys, because me and Jeff and a few others were already cooking up the rookie guide. And that's something that you're going to want. It's one of the most valuable pieces of off-season content. We're actually revamping the website right now, working on player pages. And if you lost next season, you really should pay, because it sounds like you could use some help. And we'd love to be there and help be your guide. So go to footballguys.com/plans. Now that I've done what they pay me for, let's go back to the fun stuff. We have Joe Mixon, Jeff. He's done us okay this season. He's done really well when he's been out there. The Texans have been disappointing. Joe Mixon has not. Where are you at on him?
I think we all have that vision in our heads of about a month ago when he was skipping into the end zone against the Cowboys for his third touchdown on Monday Night Football. And he looked so spry, and you were like, oh my God, he's never looked like this in Cincinnati. What is going on? And then since then, it's been bad. It's been a struggle over the last 3 weeks. He had a bye in there. So over the last 4 weeks, he's really not giving you much. And so that's kind of sticks you in a little bit there where the value was spiking in Dynasty. You look at his, over the last 3 months, his position rank jumped up to running back 12 on our good friends Keep Trade Cut from running back 23 in the middle of October. So that tells you in Dynasty, I mean, he didn't get younger in between that month there from going from running back 23 to running back 12. He's kind of leveled out at running back 15 now. If you are eliminated from the playoffs in the Dynasty League, you have to sell Joe Mixon right now. Right now is the time. If you do not have a buy, if you do not have a trade deadline, sell Joe Mixon right now. And because you don't know what's going to happen. Houston, when you look at the depth, we know that, I mean, we wanted Dameon Pierce to be a thing. He's not a thing. They don't trust him. They've been playing Dario Gumbawale instead of him. We don't know. Joe Mixon's hurt, so that complicates things. We don't know what his situation is going to be even in week 16, if he's even going to play in week 16. He had that ankle injury. He said he's fine. They're not concerned about it. He was also fine beginning of the season on that ankle, and he missed a month. So we don't know what we've got in that type of situation. So I don't know if you even can sell Joe Mixon right now, but they could easily go out there and they should frankly go out and draft a player relatively high in this loaded rookie running back class, a day 2 player, day 3 player, 4th round pick, somebody like that. And we know what's going to happen in Dynasty. The moment that happens, the bottom will fall out on Joe Mixon's value. Yeah. Everybody will freak out about that player. They will say, well, look at what Joe Mixon was able to do in this offense. What is this guy what's the next Trey Benson or whoever might be going to do? And so this is your last good opportunity. And again, it's complicated because of that injury, but he's just not been the same player since we saw a month ago, or since we saw in October through that run through November as really a top 5 running back in fantasy football.
Yeah, honestly, the fresh legs early in the season really helped him out. Like, he started off real hot, even though he had that little injury early in the season. He started off real hot, but then we slowly started to see the last few weeks. You're right, Jeff, slowed down a little bit. And he's someone, I put it, and I put it wrong. He's actually RB 14 for me. I put it at 13 in the doc. He's at 14 for me, and that's just been moving down over the past couple of weeks. It's slowly starting to move down. I think, Jeff, you're absolutely right. Like, this is the last kind of moment you have to sell Joe Mixon if you're out of the Dynasty playoffs. You're in the playoffs, keep him. He'll probably help you win a championship this year. He'll get enough volume to help you get some serviceable running back points. But yeah, if you're out of the playoffs, you've been eliminated. If you're on, if you're out of the playoffs, this is the time, because his bottom is definitely going to fall out. I think in general, we're going to see a huge wave of backfield changes this year. The 2025 NFL draft class at running back is just so strong. Like, there are just so many good running backs. I think we're going to see a couple names that maybe right now, yeah, for now. But I think we're going to see a couple names that we don't expect at running back to get replaced. Like, there's going to be a couple names that get drafted to certain teams where it's like, oh, I didn't see that one coming to that team. Like, that shocks us. I think we're going to see a couple of those this year, and I think Joe Mixon's going to be one of them, where it's going to happen and everyone's going to panic, and it's going to be real bad real quick. Because he's entering next year, he'll be entering age 29 season, right? 28, 29 season. Like, he's up there. So I couldn't agree.
I quit counting after 28.
Yeah, but
go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no, I was just Jeff, I think you laid it out perfectly. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I had him at RB 13. I bumped him down right now as you were talking because, I mean, if you're gonna have a running back discount, age discount, you'd rather have Derrick Henry next season.
Yeah,
like you think they'd run him back. You'd rather have Christian McCaffrey or something because he's Christian
Derrick
McCaffrey
Henry
when he's out there.
Has not been good since like week 9. So that's another one that
iffy.
The wheels have fallen out. He's been like running back 25 over the last like 6 or 7 weeks. He got off that torrid hot start through the first 9 weeks of the year. He's really struggled too. And I think in general, you're starting to see some of these older running backs. I mean, James Conner just went off against the Patriots, but you're starting to see some of these older running backs that were bringing us back in have really struggled over the last couple of weeks.
Do you think that he's actually struggled as like a player? Do you think he's just struggled as just because like Lamar Jackson was scoring from like 20 yards out, like outside the red zone yesterday? Do you think that we're just losing that I guess high touchdown percentage that we were having just because this offense is so explosive at this point that if Derrick Henry's going to get it, he better get it when every touch because Lamar might get it the next play?
That might be part of it, and I would have to dig in a little bit more on the red zone usage there. To be honest, I haven't seen that, but I mean, I certainly did watch the game this past week and saw multiple
Yeah.
splash plays that they scored from distance. But we're now 3 weeks out with him not scoring, so that's disappeared. But even beyond that, we weren't seeing the passing game usage is next to nothing, and he was a player that was averaging at his high 21.9 points per game in half PPR scoring, and now he's closer to 11. So even if you tack a touchdown onto that, you're still falling short of what he was at earlier in the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. To be fair, I have no interest in a lot of these running backs right now at their cost. I'm going to try to get them for late seconds and whatnot in drafts and try to take advantage that way for next season, just because like the usual method of running backs didn't work. And I'm not saying I'm going to like hard adjust, but I am going to take advantage of some of these cheaper guys while I can. Cause I mean, you could have gotten Saquon Barkley for a late first, you know, and look where he's at now. You know, he's my dynasty RB3, and I have no reason to really change that. What's going to change next year? You know, I doubt anyone's going to come in and take any touches from him. Yeah, Joe Mixon is probably, this is a good time. I'm happy I don't own any because I hate old people. So, you know. Next we got T. Higgins. Joe Burrow's been pretty hot here lately. Hutch, you have him at wide receiver 21. I have him at 29. Do I really have him at 29, or did I just click something else? Jeff, where are you at with him? I know he's a free agent next season.
T. Higgins, I have him at, well, it's freezing on me. Let's see here. I've got him wide receiver 20. So
I'm low on him.
And part of it's that news that we saw from Joe Burrow saying that they're going to do what they can to keep T. Higgins around. And then you see that T. Higgins fires his agent and hires Ja'Marr Chase's agent. We know Ja'Marr Chase is in a contract negotiation with the Bengals. And kind of seems to me that Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase would like T. Higgins to remain a Bengal. And it seems that maybe T. Higgins would also like to remain a Bengal. And I think a big part of it, thinking back 3 months ago when we thought that the Bengals were Super Bowl contenders, it's one thing in my mind to keep T. Higgins to extend a Super Bowl contention window, because what are you going to get kind of in replacement? Now it's almost gone a 180 in my mind, where if you're a 4-win team, 5-win team, and you're struggling and you've got holes all over your defense, maybe it is in your best interest to see what kind of trade package you can get for him. But at the same time, if that's where you're leaning and building your team and your quarterback wants it and your star receiver wants it, and he's happy being that second guy as long as he gets paid, I mean, that's your strength. You need to continue to build upon your strength and try to fill in the pieces. Their cap is wide open in 2026. They really only have Joe Burrow, the Orlando Brown, the left tackle, and Logan Wilson, the linebacker, are the only players that are signed in 2026. They have a lot of money coming off the books in 2025. Trey Hendrickson is a big part of that. He's their only good defensive player, so they're going to have to figure that one out as well. But when you really look at it, this was a Super Bowl contention team that had strong depth throughout the roster, and it feels like they got old and bad overnight. So you kind of still need to keep the pieces around that make you different and make you good.
Yeah, with the exception of wide receiver, when it's all said and quarterback, obviously, the Bengals are just in best available mode. Realistically, everywhere on that defense, they need a lot of help. When you give me that cap info, yeah, like why wouldn't you have one agent? It's like, all right, I've got both of your money makers right here. What can we get done? You know, because you got to think they're probably negotiating all that together of where that money's going to go to that wide receiver room. And I mean, Yoshevich is still on a rookie contract, and he's all right depth there. They've done a good job at drafting depth, and that's what's key there. Because a lot of these teams, they'll pay for someone, and then if one of those guys gets hurt, they have like Scotty Miller back there, you know, and then the talent really falls off. So regardless, T. Higgins should be someone you're buying in Dynasty, because everyone's like, well, I hate rostering him. And again, I keep referencing like Jordan McNamara and stuff like that. It really is like especially with these wide receiver 24 outside those prices where you're paying maybe a late first, maybe multiple seconds, maybe some garbage that you don't really like that much in a second to go and get these players, you're getting a high variance player attached to a good quarterback.
Does him remaining in Cincinnati, what does that do to his value, do you think? Because
nothing for me.
I think it's good for him.
I think it's
honestly.
good for him too, but I wonder what right now he's the Schrodinger's mystery box wide receiver, and he could be Patrick Mahomes' number one wide receiver. He could be somebody else's
Drake
number
May,
one
Drake
wide
May,
receiver,
yeah,
or
Drake May, Bryce Young.
you know, he could be Jake Hayner's number one wide receiver. So I mean, but we don't ever think about the bad thing that can happen. We only think about where he could end up. But I think that continuity and keeping him in Cincinnati, and the other thing is you just don't see players like this change teams. You don't see blue chip players in their prime of their career on teams that believe themselves to be good football teams change teams very, very often. It usually ends up being, I mean, we saw Tyreek Hill. He was 28, and they traded a big package for him. They certainly didn't let him walk in free agency. It's just very rare. And for all we talk ourselves into free agency and look at it and look ahead and all these things, especially wide receivers, corners, edge rushers, those guys in their prime that are on good teams don't usually leave. It's usually the poorly run teams that the guys just can't wait to get out of there.
Yeah,
I agree
that's what I was about to say. I was going to say that like most of the time when these trades happen with players like this, it rarely works out for one side of the team. Either someone is overpaid and there's a reason why they let this guy leave, or one
Bill
team
Belichick.
you look back, Bill Belichick, or you look at Texans with Bill O'Brien when he gave up DeAndre Hopkins, and you're like, wow, the Texans could really use a wide receiver one right now.
Yeah, man, that was wild.
For David Johnson, the ghost of David Johnson.
You know, I'm with Jeff here when you say, you know, where T. Higgins could go. It's like a really, really big question, you know, about where he could end up, because he could be wide receiver one in a great offense, could be wide receiver one for a terrible quarterback. I think it's good for him to stay in Cincinnati. I mean, when you look at the past month, this Bengal, like T. Higgins starting out with some injuries, Ja'Marr Chase started off slow because the whole, you know, how much holding out he did in the offseason. But over the last month, over the last 6 weeks, you know, T. Higgins and Ja'Marr Chase are eating up over 50% of the target share for the Bengals for 4 straight weeks now. Like they're targeting these two guys at a super high rate, and it's just working for fantasy because Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins are both earning a 20+% target share. And as a result, they're both being very good for fantasy because they're good, very talented players. So with Joe Burrow in this offense and the way it's looking, if T. Higgins stays in Cincinnati, I feel like that's one of his best outcomes. The only other outcome that you could really get much better, I mean, like maybe Drake May's wide receiver one in New England. Like if he's the clear cut wide receiver one for Drake May, a second-year quarterback that's looking to have a big breakout in year 2, that could be it. I mean, you could talk about Kansas City too, but they already have a lot of receivers there with Rashee Rice, with Xavier Worthy, with Travis Kelce there as well. But Cincinnati feels like the best option.
Yep. That's why I said, to be honest, him leaving does nothing for me. I'm adjusting now. And right now on this show here, I have moved him up to my wide receiver 22, and I feel pretty okay about that. I might be able to bump him up a little more if I really wanted to. It's just, I think he's either going to go, he's not going to pull a Calvin Ridley is what I'm saying. I don't think he's going to do something crazy and go to the Titans. If he's going to go somewhere, he's going to go to Jaden Daniels, Drake May, one of those young guys, or he's going to, or Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow. There's no way that T. Higgins, like, wow, I got it cool here, single coverage, because they got Ja'Marr Chase, and I can compete for a championship everywhere. That's the only reason that he would leave. And I think him firing his agent, as him letting him know that his agent probably was just like, well, you know, like, you know, it's not working out for Calvin Ridley. Maybe we could go there and make Will Levis something. He's just like, all right, that's enough out of you, Doc.
Yeah, and that agent move is the big tipping point to me, because that agent is coming to the table as huge. You want Chase, well, we want both of our guys here. Like, let's figure this out. And the Bengals should hypothetically have the money to do it. They certainly have the flexibility to do it.
Okay,
it's a lot of cap space in 3 players.
Traditionally believed to be one of the poorer franchises in the NFL, though.
Mm-hmm. I'm interested what they do. I feel like they got to get rid of Zach Taylor, man. They got
Dude,
that
they
would be in
do.
their best interest. He can't. I don't think a lot of people are down on Bobby Slowick. I think it's offensive line's problems as well as C.J. Stroud regression. Not just that Bobby Slowick sucks, but I think even if Bobby Slowick isn't as good as a lot of people think he is, I think he's better than Zach Taylor. Is what I'm the point that I'm getting at there. So having someone like that could be just a boost. I don't know. I don't think they should get rid of their GM. I just think they get rid of the head coach, and if they keep that band together, it could be interesting. Next, we got Lad McConkey. Oh, actually, I was going to say, I'm done tweaking. I've moved him up to T. Higgins a lot because I'm doing now it's the off season in my head. Who would I actually rather have here? Who am I not reasoning? And that's how it kind of goes. Lad McConkey, I did have him at my wide receiver 26 after on air tweaking. I have him at my wide receiver 22. And that feels almost cheap if you consider that what he's done this
Yeah.
season. Matt Harmon said he's been the best performing wide receiver out of the rookies as far as win rates and beating man coverage and zone, the two big indicators. Jeff, do you think he's just too cheap right now? How much should we be paying for Lad McConkey?
Wide receiver 12 for me.
Oh, oy vey.
Wow. Yeah, that's how I like it. I like it a lot, honestly.
Yeah, and I think
I'm looking at my 24 ranking. I think that's too low. I need to go back and make some adjustments.
Would you rather have Jamison Williams or Lad McConkey?
That's not even a conversation. I would rather
No.
have Lad McConkey all day.
Yeah.
You're shopping and you're offering me Kmart prices here. I'm Target shopping.
Kmart price.
I mean, I'm a Jamison Williams. I wouldn't say a hater, but I'm not like he's the greatest thing ever. I think he's like, oh, all right. I think he is okay in the role that he's in, and I don't say he's okay. He's a good player, but I mean, a lot of people were out of hand. They were just like out of pocket with Jamison Williams pretty early on.
So I've got Lad over. I've got him over Garrett Wilson. I've got him over Drake London. I've got him over Rome Odunze. I've got him over Zay Flowers. So that tells you the ballpark that I'm shopping in with Lad right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are you at on Brian Thomas Jr. then?
Wide receiver 8.
Yep. That's where he should be. That's where he should be, yeah.
I traded Drake London for him, and I feel bad. It's like
Drake London for
Brian Thomas?
Oh, I'm sorry. I traded Brian Thomas for Drake London. This was like a trade a while back.
Yeah,
I traded Drake London and a second for, I traded Brian Thomas and a second for Drake London and Rome Odunze. That was like week 4. I did that. Not Rome Odunze.
That's not. I don't feel as bad now.
Romeo Dubs.
I want to feel
for a second. Romeo Dubs. I feel like that was okay. So
I'm not sure, but anyways, back to Lad. I want to go back to Lad McConkey real quick, man. I love your ranking of wide receiver 12, Jeff. Honestly, I'm looking at my rankings and I want to move him up. The dude, we mentioned Matt Harmon saying he's had so much success against man. He's been really good this year, and it's just so true, man. When you watch him play, he's always open. Like, he is just simply always open. He is too quick on his feet. He runs routes too intelligently. He beats zone. He beats man. He beats anything you put on him. The only concern I have for Lad McConkey right now is that the Chargers draft a wide receiver with a really big name, or sign somebody big time and to take away a target share potentially for Lad McConkey. But the thing is that you could have a wide receiver 1 overtake Lad McConkey, and Matt McConkey might be more of a 1B. But the problem is that would open up so much of the offense for him, and they would open up the passing game a lot more for this Chargers offense. So it wouldn't be too much of a ding to Lad McConkey. So I'm in on him too. I think my wide receiver 24 ranking is too low. I'm gonna go back and make adjustments. I'm looking at my rankings now. He's probably going to end up being, after this show, after we make some adjustments, he'll probably be approaching top 15 for sure.
Yeah, and since week 8
about another wide receiver coming in,
they're not going to draft another wide receiver. Not anything meaningful. I'll tell you right now. They're going to build the lines. Jim Harbaugh and that philosophy, just like they did with Joe Alt, they're going to build the offensive line, defensive line. That's going to be meat and potatoes there. They're going to probably draft a running back because they desperately need.
Oh yeah, dude, they need one. Holy crap!
Tight end might be the bigger concern because I could see them drafting a tight end before I could see them drafting a wide receiver that's meaningful. They really do like Quentin Johnston for all of his warts and all the hatred that fantasy Twitter bestows upon Quentin Johnston. They do like Quentin Johnston,
He's a solid
and
player.
they believe in his
Not bad.
growth. So, and they view McConkey as the number one receiver. McConkey, since week 8, he's been the wide receiver 12 in redraft at 14 points per game and half PPR, tying with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Justin Jefferson since that point. So that tells you kind of the production that you're at. And I think the most interesting thing about McConkey is that his volume didn't suddenly explode. His volume has really remained constant. Where his targets
depth of target
come from changed completely. He went from being, and every single draft profile that you read, everything you look at the guy and you talk about the package, you would think he is a slot receiver in the NFL. And so you can't really blame the Chargers for starting him as a slot receiver in the NFL. But when you watch his tape at Georgia, when you watch what he actually did, he was beating dudes downfield left and right. He was tearing guys up
all the time.
He is so good, open all the time. And that is where I'm high on him, because that raises his ceiling dramatically in my book, because I didn't have a question about the quick stuff. And I saw that in Georgia. I really liked him quite a bit on the downfield stuff, and that translating to the NFL. Now you're talking about that guy that can handle 15 targets per game, like we've seen him already get. And then you're talking about being connected with Justin Herbert, being Justin Herbert's number one wide receiver in an offense that is willing to go to him and treat him like a number one wide receiver. I mean, the sky's the ceiling there. I mean, it's one of those that he can do everything you want. And I think he's a great buy if he's available in your dynasty league.
Yeah. The trade that we talked about a while back, again, bringing up Brian Thomas, one of my juggernaut teams, I have Marvin Harrison Jr., Brian Thomas, and Ladd McConkey, and I'm just destroying everybody like through the tail end, because like Marvin Harrison Jr. is like my wide receiver 3 because of BTJ and Ladd McConkey right now. Because everyone was just like, why would you trade Anthony Richardson? I was like, well, I've got Lamar Jackson, Brock Purdy. I'm good at quarterback for the most part. I don't have consistency at wide receiver, so going and getting these discount on the young guys is a way to go. Because I think I actually got I sold Anthony Richardson for Brian Thomas Jr. and a Devy second. So it's a Devy second, but any plus on top of that, I think is a big win. And like you said, right now with the Chargers, it feels like you can get young Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp right now for pretty cheap. If you want to think about usage and what you're getting with volume. Only thing I disagree with, I still think they should draft a wide receiver, but that's just me.
Well, and what kind of wide receiver would you draft?
If Ja'Cory Brooks would fall to the second round and they were able to get a guy, let's say Kelvin Banks or Donovan Jackson or something like that, and Ja'Cory Brooks at the top like an X, I would rather have Ja'Cory Brooks and Quentin Johnston. Like, to me, their defense.
Colson Loveland sitting there in the second round. Would you rather have Colson Loveland or Ja'Cory Brooks in the second round?
I'd rather have Colson Loveland.
And which do you think Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman are going to pick? I mean,
Colson Loveland. You're probably right. Talking that through, that's probably because it's just like if I'm going on a draft grade, not thinking about fantasy football, but an actual draft grade, Colson Loveland is a higher graded player. I mean, Colson Loveland's a blue chip prospect. That's like not like a question.
Tight end is so important, and I mean, Stone Smart is really fun, and it was cool that he put up some points, and Will Dissly had his moments. But when you look at team building and you look at what Greg Roman's valued and Jim Harbaugh's valued, Jim Harbaugh had Vernon Davis back in the day in San Francisco. Greg Roman had Mark Andrews in Baltimore. They're going to go get a meaningful impact tight end. But if they get a guy that can carry the seam and win downfield, that opens up things for Ladd McConkey, because McConkey can play in underneath him. McConkey can play over top of that type of player, and he can do so many things to play off of each other. And even that, I don't see that as a detriment to McConkey's ceiling. I don't expect them to go. I think they've got their top 2 receivers, I think, right now. I mean, maybe if the price is right on a third option, but I do think that tight end would be a higher priority there.
I think you're right, because like if they go O-line, and let's say someone else likes Colson Loveland too, I would still take. I think like Tyler Warren would be there, or someone like Tyler Warren is someone I'd really like. Luke Lachey, I don't know if he's coming back or not. I would rather have Luke Lachey there.
But think about back to your rookie draft last year, and think about what you would have had to pay to turn a Lad McConkey or a Brian Thomas Jr. into a Rome Odunze or something like that.
Yeah.
Versus now, how you would feel about if you paid that price to do that move.
Because it's crazy that like Lad McConkey's probably more valuable than Rome Odunze. Because it's weird. Like I think Rome Odunze is a slightly better prospect, but it's one of those things where he's in Chicago, and I just don't. They're just hard to trust that franchise to get it together. Like I've been waiting my entire career for them to get it together.
People get so militant on those tiers in your rookie draft that if you're willing to play with it, if you're willing to step onto the Brian Thomas or the Lad McConkeys and stomach maybe a little bit of risk for that big reward, I mean, that's how you build depth throughout your roster. Are you able to package something to, I'll give you the Rome Odunze for the Lad McConkey, and here's this other stuff. You give me your first next year, and then that first turns into Ashton Genty or something like that, and then all of a sudden you're building this juggernaut in Dynasty.
Yeah, and we're actually going to play this or that with some of these rookie picks later this week, guys, instead of our usual prospect stuff. Last one here, we got Jordan Love at quarterback. I have him at QB 13. Hutch, you have him at QB 12. I don't see me getting much higher than that, to be honest, no matter what we talk about. Jeff, where are you at with him?
Jordan Love's my quarterback 11. And it's tough because they really, for all the letting him loose last year that we did and the big production and those types of things, they really put the training wheels back on him this year. And they have leaned on that power run game. They've made things a lot easier for him because we saw, I think it was his first 8 games or something like that, he had an interception every single game, and he hasn't thrown a pick. It's been like 5 weeks now, I believe, since he's thrown a pick. He might have thrown one last night. I might have missed it, but it's been like 5 weeks since he's thrown an interception. So he's playing cleaner football because they're putting him in that position. But because of that, you're no longer getting him going out there and dropping the random 345-yard, 4-touchdown games like we were seeing in 2023. And so that's lowers that ceiling a little bit because it tells you like this is how they want to play with him. Maybe he opens that back up again, but we already know he's not going to be a runner. He's not going to be able to giving you fantasy points very much there. So if he's not really doing that and he's not being allowed to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, then you're only just kind of leaning on the youth a little bit.
Yeah, when you look at specifically past the bye for Green Bay, they really toned it down. Like they toned it down a lot. Like you saw the rush rate in neutral game strip go up significantly. And you look at Jordan Love's raw pass attempt numbers, they went down a lot. And as a result, the fantasy numbers, the yardage, the touchdowns have all jumped down a little bit. Like, and the thing is with Jordan Love too, you need that high passing volume because it's like a similar to a CJ Stroud in a sense where you're not getting the rushing volume. Like he just does not run the football. We thought we'd get a sneaky little bit of that after we saw what he did last year. He ran for a couple hundred yards, a couple touchdowns, but this year we just haven't seen it. It hasn't been there. And the thing is, the Packers are winning games too. They're a really good football team. They're probably going to continue to be a good football team. They're a great franchise. And they're going to have a lot of games where they're winning the game. They don't need to pass the football 18 times a game. They're able to run the clock. And that just sucks for Jordan Love for fantasy purpose. So I agree with you, guys, both of you. He's at quarterback 13 for me as well. He's right in that range where it's like he'll be a fringe QB1, but you need the volume, you need the touchdowns, and we're just not 100% sure it's going to be there. So as a result, you can't put him in that, top 8, top 10 conversation. He has the potential and the talent to be there. It's just the volume isn't there.
Yeah, I know. You mentioned tiers with in a rookie draft or whatever, but in a startup draft, I would rather just wait on Jared Goff than take Jordan Love
exactly,
at cost. Yeah. If you really think about it, it's Jared Goff's going to be around another 3 years. The floor and the ceiling, statistically, they're the same to me. They're not going to run if they're going to give it to the running back on the goal line. Excuse me, or they just don't have a good passing game. You're going to have a bad day. They're not going to be able to make it up with their legs. So that's why Jordan Love is one of those I don't roster because of that. He's just someone whose value I'm not going to play low end QB1 price when I can pay QB2 price for the same thing.
Yeah, I love that idea because he's gonna because of his name value and because of what we have seen from him, he's going to be constantly put in that tier of like, oh, he's up there among the elite guys. He's just at the bottom of it. But in reality, we kind of have to put him in the tier of like, he's outside that range. He's in the Jared
Yeah.
Goff range where it's like, he's outside of that elite tier. He's not in that
Well,
elite tier at the bottom of it. He's
And
outside of it. So at that
I
point, it's
do.
probably going to be, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
No, you finish your point. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. I was gonna say it's just gonna be better at that point in the draft, where especially in a super flexi, you're probably gonna look at running back or receiver or tight end. Those positions are probably a lot more valuable than picking Jordan Love at that point.
You
That's
talked
all.
about him going for close to a couple hundred yards last year on the ground. He hurt that knee week 1.
That was all.
And I
Yeah,
wonder how much that has played into what we've seen from him in terms of being lower mobility, making sure that they maintain him and have him on the field, being a little bit more risk adverse, maybe in your play calling, maybe you're not calling some of those boots and those types of things because of that injury. That's not letting him move outside of the pocket, not allowing him to tack downfield as much. And if that all plays into it, that might be a factor too.
that's totally fair. Yeah, that knee injury early might be limiting him a little bit.
Yep. And that's it for this show, guys. Always like and subscribe. If you guys have any questions, and we're always looking for trades. You got any trades that you want us to discuss, put those in the comments. Me and Jeff, we're going to talk rookie prospects on the next episode. Then we'll have Hutch back for our trade show on Thursday. That being said, I'm Jagger. That's Jeff. That's Hutch. And we'll see you on the next one.